Sam, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways because we read these policies and the clause that always gets me more than anything else, and I'm wondering how you've seen it play out in claims, is this policy is excess over the required limits, right? Of the motor carrier, or if we're really extending here to say the contractor as it applies to the final mile space where it's usually a driver in a private passenger vehicle, right? But that clause would state, right, we're not paying anything as the insurer until we've exhausted the policy limits on what should be primary, which is the motor carrier's policy or the contractor's policy. Is that how it is, how you see it, and is that how it's playing out with claims?
The answer is there's a lot of answers. What you're describing has happened and will continue to happen. Depending on the wording, a lot of these policies have what they call warranties. And the warranty says, thou shall have, primary insurance on a, motor carrier, and this doesn't, respond until that is exhausted or something like that, right? That's what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so in many cases, the adjusters for those companies, which are usually TPAs, those adjusters, take that clause very seriously, and they just go into lockdown. They don't pay anything. And then they look for this other policy that doesn't exist half of the time. Half of the time, that policy doesn't even exist. And then they say you violated the warranty, so you have no coverage now. The other half of the time, there's a fight. It's a fight. It gets messy. Nobody knows what to expect. And it just gets, it creates bad tension and sometimes no coverage.
Yeah, so it would be safe to say that if you were given your choice of a policy that had that within it for half the price, or a business auto policy that's just symbols 8 and 9 for twice the cost, you'd take the business auto policy all day long.
The answer is yes, and I'm going to just, fortify that with this. This is not the risk to get cheap around. This is not the risk to get too cheap around. You want responsive insurance to this risk. This is not the place to be uninsured or extremely underinsured. So you want a duty to defend. You want, a critical, sizable enough limit of insurance, and you want something that's going to respond. And you need a good agent, and you need a better policy than these, very, very flighty, Lloyd's-based products that, probably are not insuring you for what you might think they are.